Are you tired of guessing your way through supplements? Feeling like each choice is just another shot in the dark? Unlock your health potential at takeyoursupplements.com. Here, we don't just sell supplements, we customize wellness. Connect with a true health coach who tailors your nutritional path based on your unique health goals and challenges. From fatigue to vitality, from confusion to clarity. Start your transformation today. Visit takeyoursupplements.com and discover how feeling amazing is just one free consultation away. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 520. I am so excited for today's guest. We have Jeremy Slate on the show. Him and I have become friends through the years. He has a company called Command Your Brand. Before he got into helping people like me and other holistic health practitioners to market themselves, he was a power lifter, a competitive power lifter, and at some point pulled a tank. We got to talk about that. We're going to have some fun today talking about different concepts, but I think it's really important that we definitely discuss how to support holistic health practitioners and anyone in the holistic health space, because in the last few years they have been under attack. Now, I don't know if you have gotten your tinfoil near you, but I'd like you to go ahead and fold your little tinfoil hat with me, because I know I always sound like a conspiracy theorist when I say this, but when you look deeper, you see that Google has like delisted major health websites. Dr. Mercola, do you remember him? Completely disappeared. He's still there, but Google just will not let you find him. Like he used to be in the number one search for many years. He's an amazing database of health information. And so many other holistic doctors in the last 4 or 5 years have been like delisted. And what has replaced it is mainstream media, pharmaceutical-based medicine, right? But the people like you who are listening to this show, you want to figure out how to get so healthy that your body doesn't need drugs, right? You want to get so healthy that you live to be 99 plus years old in the prime of your health even then. And I'm friends with people in their 80s who still downhill ski and run marathons. And it's possible. And you can do it. Jeremy Slate's going to be one of those people as well. Jeremy, it's so good to have you on the show.
Hey, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And it's funny, you talk about people in their 80s downhill skiing. You should see my 6-year-old hit double black diamonds. She is incredible.
That's so awesome. I love that the idea that, throughout life, no matter how old we are, we want to be able to just do whatever we want, right? You want to go ski, great. You want to go swim, you want to go bike, you want to go run a marathon. A part of health is not having limitations, not being limited. And, wherever you are in your health journey, like get up and start moving. I actually started 75 hard. Have you heard of that, Jeremy?
My cousin just did that not long ago, and he lost like 50 something pounds. I'm really proud of him.
Yeah, it's not so so people do lose weight and gain muscle, but that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it for the mental toughness, which is the whole purpose of it. It's 2 45-minute workouts a day, no matter what. And then there's a bunch of other rules. And what's really interesting is, that voice that says, oh, I don't know, I'm too tired, or I don't have, I can't, I'm too busy. And that goes out the window because it becomes your priority no matter what to schedule 2 45-minute workouts, no matter what you got going on. And it's been wild. I feel amazing. I feel absolutely amazing. My husband's joined me in doing it. And I can tell you that the freedom you get mentally when you commit to building your health and taking your health to the next level is so worth it. There's this personal, like emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual growth that comes from putting your health first. Jeremy, at some point in your life, you put your health first. You're a competitive power lifter and you pulled a tank. Tell us some stories that came from that time in your life.
Well, I think it's important to understand like how I got there, right? So I was a wrestler in school, and I'm not a big guy. Like I'm 5'7" on a good day, usually probably 5'6" more realistically. And I wrestled 119 till by the time I graduated, I wrestled 140. But to keep a growing high school kid at that weight, like what I was doing was not healthy. I was eating large quantities of food and then throwing up that food to stay on weight. So like it just was
Oh,
not taking good care of myself. So by the time I graduated, the thing I really wanted to do was take better care of myself. So I actually got into lifting because I want to take better care of myself. So with eating better, working out better. And the thing I found was I'm more of like an ectomesomorph, so I'm actually really predisposed to build muscle but stay lean. So I found out the more I did, the better I ate, like the more muscle I gained. And by the time I was like 22, somewhere around there, 21, 22, I was 215 at like 8% body fat. So
whoa.
I was a house. It made going to theme parks really rough because number one, I got really angry if I couldn't bring my little cooler every place. And number two, like I had to wear like Under Armour shorts because if my thighs rubbed, it was a real pain in the butt. But for me, like it was a really big part of my life. I had a lot of fun doing it. And you mentioned pulling the army tank. I pulled an 80,000 pound army tank on the back of an 18 wheeler to raise money for the Wounded Warrior Project. My personal bests and once again, I'm like 165 now. I've upped my caloric intake a little bit because I'm trying to get back to about 180 because it's a healthier weight for me. But so I'm not lifting weights now like I was then, though I'm still working out just as hard. At my top, I was benching 455 on a single, squatting 705, and then deadlifting 635.
I can't even fathom that. Like I have trouble, lifting my son who's, who feels like I'm lifting a tank. He's 9 years old. Man, this kid's growing like a bean. But it gives you perspective that you're like wherever you are, pick something up and lift it and then go, no matter how heavy this feels, in a year from now, this is gonna feel like a feather.
Well, and I think
And
that's a vital point because people like I don't know when you're in good shape, people are like, "Oh, what do you do? What do you bench?" Like, and I think they're always like, "How do you get like that?" And I think that the thing I always tell people is the number one way you get strong is first of all eating right. Like that's vital. Like if you're
mm,
not putting enough right fuel in your body, you're not going anywhere. But the other thing is it's simple. It's called linear progression. What does that mean? 2.5 pounds to 5 pounds a week for 10 years in strength, and you'll get strong. But it's going to take you 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years to get strong. So if you're willing to put in the time, put in the effort, and take care of yourself, you're going to do very well. But you progress forward in a straight line, improving a little bit every time.
I love that. And stick with it. Set a goal and stick with it because it's so easy to get discouraged if you don't see results fast enough. So I like to focus on results that have nothing to do at first that have nothing to do with measuring something, because if you think like, oh, I'm going to gain a pound of muscle or I'm going to lose a pound of fat, and then you get on the scale and you haven't, and scales are so inaccurate because what's it
Yeah.
measuring? It could be measuring like you haven't taken an extra bowel movement today. That could be just poop weight. It could be, I mean, it's you don't you're getting and those scales that have the little metal pads and then they tell you like this is your percentage. Those are so bogus.
The body fat
Oh,
percentage scales are worthless.
they
The
are
best way is a caliper.
worthless.
Like calipers are actually effective, but
Right.
the scales are worthless because a lot of them actually read the water content as your body as body fat. So if you
Mm-hmm.
drank too much water that day, it's going to be stupid too.
Oh, I know. I went through some really good workouts this week, and I gained two muscles. And it told me, or sorry, gained two muscles. I gained two muscles. I gained 2 pounds overnight, right? And I mean, that could be anything. That could be water retention. But my app said, because I have one of those stupid scales, it was actually gifted to me by a company that wanted me to promote it. And I'm like, well, I have to test it first.
Oh, I'm one
And
of those too. I don't promote anything I haven't
I
used.
don't promote anything I haven't used, but I also definitely don't promote things that I don't believe in and haven't helped me. And this thing told me just this morning that I gained like 2 pounds of fat overnight. I'm like, I am sorry. I like meticulously measure what I eat, my input and my output, and I just laughed. And so like normally if you go on the scale and you were like exercising every day and you were gaining weight, you would give up, right? Or you'd say this isn't working, or you'd try a different diet and like you'd switch gears. but that input is incorrect, right? And so at first your body is going to go haywire, and because you got inflammation, you've broken down some tissue because you're doing new activities, you're sore. So now, and your water, like the water in you has changed, right? You're drinking more water, you're releasing excess stagnant water. There's all kinds of changes, but a scale isn't a great measurement of your progression, at least in your first few weeks.
But on the
So
weight side, I'm like a meticulous, like, and I've tried every app out there. I'm not a big fan of doing things on smartphones. I literally have like a spiral notebook, and
nice.
I have a stack of spiral notebooks that I've used the last 20 years of my life that where I track what a workout was. And I'm meticulous in the way of, okay, so I got 5 reps of that, but the fourth one, I had a spot, or the fifth one I had a spot, or, like I wasn't as strong today. So if I'm not as strong that day, but I know in order to go forward, I have to get 2 extra reps. Well, I'm going to do a rest pause, meaning I'm going to re-rack the weight. I'm going to wait 30 seconds and I'm going to do 1 rep, re-rack the weight, wait 30 seconds, do another rep. So you have to figure out like what are the things I'm doing to advance myself too. And if you don't know what you did week after week, which is one of the number one things people aren't tracking in fitness, they don't know what their workout was like last week. And the little things matter. Like, was this hard? Were you not in the right slot for the exercise? And what I mean by that, like most people bench press too high, where they're pushing everything with their front delts, and you wonder why they blow out their shoulder. The slot is actually right below your pectorals, where the bar should actually be hitting your chest. So these are all things that are important, because if you're not tracking these things, you can't improve.
I love that. So it's good to track what you have done, and how do you keep the motivation, I'm talking about the scale, like don't use the scale in the first few weeks of starting a new program, because you don't know what it's measuring, whether it's measuring water or your poop, or you changed your diet, right? So there's so many things, and you don't know if you're measuring added muscle or weight lost. But a woman, like once in one time of her month, could be 5 pounds heavier just from water retention, right? It ebbs and flows. So a scale is not a great thing to look at. What are really great metrics that help people stay motivated in the first few weeks of a new program?
That's tough, because it's also my viewpoint on it as I've gotten older has changed a lot. Like when I was younger, I weighed everything, and I checked every calorie, and I was neurotic about it. And I remember like going on a date when I was like 17, and I freaked out that they put breading on my chicken, and I was so embarrassed when the girl just got up and left. So like the way I've looked at food and the way I've looked at what I do has changed dramatically. And I've tried to take a look at like, does what I'm doing work for me, right? Like, so I've looked at like ratios of food I'm eating. What's my ratio of carbs, my ratio of proteins, my ratio of fats? Most people don't eat enough fats. But when you're looking at how you're doing, the two things I'm looking at is I'm looking at body fat percentage, check with a caliper. I'm not checking it weekly, right? Because if you're checking it weekly or daily, it's going to fluctuate way too much. Check yourself every couple weeks. I'm also looking at like, how am I looking in the mirror? Am I seeing my shape changing? Because I also think weight is a really, really bad indicator. Because once again, as you mentioned, are you carrying more in your intestines that week? Are you carrying more water? Did you drink less water? Did you have too much salt that you're retaining water? So like those things to me aren't a good indicator. I'm looking at how am I looking in the mirror. And if I'm continuing to see physical changes, I'm also checking measurements. Like, what are my measurements looking like? My measurement around the chest, my measurement around the waist, my measurement around their hips. Like if you're checking those things, they're really good indicators to me of how you're doing.
Yes, yeah. And I like to go internal also. How's check internally for how are you feeling emotionally? Also remember, emotions aren't facts. So if you're just woke up in the wrong side of bed, that doesn't mean your entire day is ruined, but just check in with yourself and go, do I need to do some deep breathing and just like release this? Am I happy? Am I grounded? Am I content? Am I sore all over? Am I happy that I'm sore all over? Am I pissed off that I'm sore all over? Like sore from your workouts. If you're sore from not working out, then we definitely want to make some changes, because just waking up sore in the morning, if you didn't do anything for the last few days, that soreness it's probably inflammation, it's probably stagnation, and our body is just screaming out, begging for us to move in a way that brings joy back into our body. And it could just be like pickleball. It could be, find a bunch of friends and go play dodgeball, or go play tennis. I went to Goodwill the other day and bought some tennis rackets for like $5 each. And my son and I went and played tennis. And now he's like obsessed with tennis, and it's so cool. And so it doesn't have to look like going to a gym. It just move your body in a way that brings you joy. And there's just so much inner peace that comes from that. I
Well,
love that.
when I would say too, like I will tell you, like especially early on, like camaraderie is important, and it's
Mm,
really easy to quit something when you're on your own. And as I mentioned, like early on, and I know my fitness journey and his fitness journey changed a lot, but like one of my best friends went on to become an IFBB pro, and he was a big little guy. He was 5'3", but he was like 260, and I learned a lot about working out, and we were also hyper competitive because when we started, we were both around the same weight. So like I had to beat him, and he had to beat me. So I think that's also important too, is to have somebody else that number one is going to hold you accountable, right? Because
yeah.
if I don't show up, I'm letting somebody else down because he could need a spot that day, he could need help that day, he could need whatever it is. The other thing is you can get in a little bit of competition, and competition is also gonna push you to be better.
And make sure you don't push yourself to the point of injury. That's what happened when my dad got
Yes.
competitive and he blew out his ACL doing something stupid, being competitive in the gym. And he never recovered from that. And it's just like, it's so easy to be like cocky, and do something beyond your limits. So when you get competitive, make sure you're still staying within the confines of your current, your
Well,
current
that's
physical.
something I've kind of learned, like after 30. Frankly, I'm going to be, as we're recording this, I'm going to be 37 next week, and I learned after 30 to listen to my body a lot more because there's certain days where when I was younger, like things didn't feel exactly right that day. Maybe I
Yeah.
was sore in a certain part of my body, or maybe I was had a stiff hip or whatever it is, and I just kind of go in and beat through it. And you have to take a look at like if I don't have it that day, and I'm not saying it from like I'm trying to find a reason not to go, but if I don't physically have it that day, what effects can I cause? Like what other injury can happen? And that's how I tore my UCL because I went in on a bad day. Like
Oof.
had other injuries because I went in on a bad day. So like you have to also really get in tune with how your body's doing because you can if you're not doing well that day. And once again, I said not from like, oh, I'm tired and I don't want to go to the gym, but it's like no, if there's like something physically that doesn't feel right, it's a good reason to kind of, go fight the next day.
Yeah, and find like I like to check in with my body and go, what does my body need? Do I need to do more stretching? Do I need to do more like should I swim? Should I walk? Like what is it? And when I say walk, I mean like power walking, like where you're getting your heart rate up and you're like, find a hill to walk up. But sometimes it's just put on some headphones and just wander through some trails. There's check out local parks, local trails, and get back into nature, or get on a bicycle. Go buy a bicycle on Facebook Marketplace if you don't have one anymore. Remember what it was like being a kid. I feel like I want to go get rollerblades again. Like I just remember early 90s, I lived in my rollerblades. So there's all kinds of ways you can move your body. It doesn't have to be this like always in the gym or always in an exercise class or always just sitting in your cubicle or sitting in your at your desk.
But it's also
Um,
making it a group thing too, right? Like I know
yeah,
I have two kids, I have a third on the way. It's like we're actually closing into my wife's 8 months pregnant, so like we're getting pretty close to number three coming. But one of the things that we've always done, we do family bike rides together,
that's
and I have
awesome.
I have a trailer that goes behind my bicycle where I tow the 5-year-old has to ride her own bike now, but I tow the kids behind me and stuff like that. So also making it a group activity, I think is really helpful too, because once again, it doesn't you don't have to be like beating yourself going up and down hills, but like a bike ride is a great family activity where you're doing something together.
Love it. Are you tired of guessing your way through supplements? Feeling like each choice is just another shot in the dark? Unlock your health potential at takeyoursupplements.com. Here, we don't just sell supplements, we customize wellness. Connect with a true health coach who tailors your nutritional path based on your unique health goals and challenges. From fatigue to vitality, from confusion to clarity. Start your transformation today. Visit takeyoursupplements.com and discover how feeling amazing is just one free consultation away. That's takeyoursupplements.com. You wanted to come on the show today because there was some stuff you wanted to share for those who are in the holistic health space. And I think it's you have a unique perspective because you help people like myself and other holistic health practitioners. You help them with your company, Command Your Brand. You also have a podcast of your own. Tell us a bit about your company, what it does, and your podcast, Create Your Own Life podcast. And then I'd love to talk a bit about what I was getting into about how we've been delisted. So many holistic health practitioners have been delisted, and what can we do to combat that?
Yeah, so Command Your Brand, we're a PR firm for the podcast space. We help people to get their stories down and help them find the right shows and run them on a campaign over a year. We kind of help them get out there and get their message out there. Because I'm a big believer in the man who created podcasting and what he has to say about it, and that's Adam Curry, and he says podcasting is the last bastion of free speech. And I think it's a place where we can still say what needs to be said and still do it in a long form, right? Like you can't handle a lot of the conversations we have to have in 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Like these are long form conversations. That's how we actually get to a solution at things because, iron sharpens iron. A good argument forces another argument to be better and get us to a better place, hopefully, or good information hopefully forces us to get to better information. But when we're told you can't talk about a certain method or you can't talk about a certain way of doing things, well, how are we going to improve people's health if we can't talk about certain options? We just go to a medico that says, the allopathic school I went to says you do these 5 injections and this and whatever, and you're done. And for some reason you're not better and you wonder why. We need to be able to talk about these different things because number one, there's different ways to treat people. Number two, bodies are very, very different, right? Like I've struggled with ear infections my whole life. So I've had a lot of stuff that I've had to do that a lot of people haven't had to do with how I handle my nasal cavities and everything else. So bodies are different and we need to be able to talk about how we can help them. And being told in traditional media, your viewpoint isn't acceptable here and what you have to say isn't acceptable here, isn't okay with me. And that's one of the number one reasons that after this whole, experience of the last couple of years, the pandemic and everything else, I started talking about a lot more health topics that mattered to me and a lot more edgy subjects. I have a bunch of episodes that we've done I had Del Bigtree on, I had Peter McCullough on, I had a lot of these episodes on. They're on my Rumble channel. We don't put them on YouTube. So I think it's important to understand, number one, it's a great place for free speech, but it's also understanding what are the platforms out there, how to utilize them, and how do you get the most out of them? Because I have a lot of friends that say, I went on YouTube and they did XYZ to me and now I can't talk on YouTube. Yep. And I think you don't have to agree with the rules and you don't have to like them. But I think to go hard charging and just say I was right and YouTube banned me is also not the other way to do it, the right way to do it either. I think you have to understand what they'll allow you to say there, use it for the abilities to grow, and then find other places like your audio show and Rumble and things like that where you give people the full story. But I think to cut your communication lines is also a bad idea.
And I have so many holistic health friends who had their lines cut. And I learned, I adapted.
You find out what the code words are and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. I came very close to it. I definitely interviewed some people who were saying here's how you treat, C19. And you don't even want to say it, right? Like blank, fill in the space. And if I say capital C, everyone thinks cancer, but I have a ton of interviews with holistic health doctors who help their patients cure cancer, and not once did YouTube give me a red flag. And I thought that was interesting. But the moment you have a doctor saying, I have published a study with 500 of my patients where we were able to cure C19, and that episode gets banned. And it's just, it was sick.
But even the interesting about it too, Ashley, is they're going backwards and they're removing things from years ago. Yeah. So I interviewed a doctor, I don't know if he put this on YouTube or not, so I won't say the name of his therapy, but it's a specific type of cancer therapy. Because I know if you say the word is actually banned. You can't say it. They went back and deleted my episode from 3 years ago with him.
Really?
And one of the number one ways he promoted was YouTube. So it's you do have to figure out, we don't have to like the rules, and we
have to know.
Yeah,
I have to know. can you hint at who he is or hint at the therapy?
Oh, I can say his name. It's Dr. Patrick Vickers, but I can't say the name of his
Okay.
therapy.
Yeah, I know. I've had him on my show too.
The actual word that starts
Yeah.
with a G is
Starts with a
banned.
G. Yes, exactly. It is really, it's just weird. It's well, it's when you know the history of the modern medical system, it's not weird because that's how they designed it and they protect their interests. But here we are wanting to get our health back, wanting to find the truth in what we can do to support our body's ability to heal itself. And if you don't know this, if you don't know that Google will delist information, like legit information that helps you heal your body, and that's only in the last few years, and you don't know that, then you're guided when you Google things. You're guided to misinformation. Isn't that Orwellian? Isn't that Orwellian?
Yes.
They are banning information and they're labeling it misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we have to deal with as people who have a platform, right? I have a platform because I was so sick for so many years, and then I used natural medicine to heal, to reverse all my diseases. And I woke up saying, wait a second, people need to know this. And so I started this podcast to interview holistic health practitioners so that people who were suffering no longer suffer, can learn from the people who are who are spreading the true information. But this information is not taught in medical schools, and is definitely not now appreciated by Google. Google owns YouTube. So we need to learn how to work within each system, like you talked about. So Rumble's a good platform, is it?
Definitely harder. So it's harder to grow as a creator. That's one thing I will say, and that's why I said, like, don't cut your nose to spite your face and say, I'm going to go say things on YouTube that I know are going to get me banned. Mm-hmm. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it. We can hope it changes in the future, but YouTube is really important in where you should put your more vanilla content so that you can use it to attract an audience and grow. And that's where it's really valuable. Rumble, they've done a very great job protecting free speech. It's a great place to have these conversations, but at the moment, discoverability as a creator is very difficult. So you want to be there. You need to be there to back yourself up. Odyssey is another great platform out there as well. So, and that's the real piece of advice I want to give people out there that are creating their own content. Like if you're a host and not a guest, is have your different places you publish. You should be on YouTube, you should be on Rumble, you should be on Odyssey, but understand your much more vanilla content is what's going to be on YouTube so that people can find you. Give people an opportunity to find you, and then give them your great advice in these other places. And if you're concerned about the audio, going back to Adam Curry, he's come out with a new system for podcasting called Podcasting 2.0, and it's actually podcasting built on the blockchain. And it's very cool because, number one, it's uncancelable because the audio is built on blockchain. So there's some really great apps out there for it. So just Google Podcasting 2.0, and I think it's like newpodcastapps.com or something like that is the website he has. But anyway, just Google it and Google Adam Curry. But it's cool as well because it also allows you to support creators. Like you can, they actually get money for the amount of time you're listening, or you can send them tips or stuff like that. So you want to look at different ways you can protect yourself in the content you're creating. Don't become platform dependent, but don't also, because I have a lot of friends that they know what you can and can't say on YouTube, but they've gone hard charging at it and say, well, I'm just going to be right. And it's like, well, how right are you now that you can't talk at all? So you have to use it for acquiring audiences, but just understand what you can say where. And when my audience sees that I've skipped an episode, they know it's on my Rumble feed, or they know it's on my Odyssey feed, or whatever. So I think it's just really important to understand that, because use the system for what it is, but get your message out. You have to heal people. That's why people do this.
Yes. I have not seen iTunes, the Apple podcasting app. I have not seen them censor. And
unless you're Alex Jones, he's censored everywhere.
Well, okay. I haven't. I personally haven't seen any of people in my space.
Yeah, I haven't had that either.
And this was maybe six or 7 years ago. iTunes said, "Hey guys, and at the time, 95 or more % of my downloads of the podcast were coming from iTunes, and I thought that was interesting. I posted it to as many places as I could, but it was primarily iTunes. And now the latest statistics is that Spotify is about half. It's like 50-50, give or take. So Spotify is like quickly coming up to compete. But about 6-7 years ago, iTunes said, we're going to transcribe everything, but keep it in house so that our search engine is more robust. And I love that. And I definitely noticed an uptick in my downloads because someone could type in like muscular dystrophy or, asthma or, whatever they're typing in. And if my guest mentioned it or talked about it, but we didn't put it in the title, that episode could still come up for them to listen. So I thought that was cool. But now with AI, every company has AI, so they're all probably doing that. I'm just wondering, have you seen any censorship around the bigger podcast directories like Spotify or iTunes?
I haven't, and I guess the one thing I'm excited about is with Spotify putting so much money in Joe Rogan and understanding what that means for them. To me, it also means they're investing in free speech. So I think people are dying to get it. And I think the audio platforms really get it. YouTube. I think the major problem with them is they have this new partnership with the WHO. So it's affected health. It's affected. Are you aware of this or no?
Okay, back up. Let's just pretend that I'm not aware of this. And
okay, cool.
For all the listeners who just gasped with me, wait a sec. You mean the World Health Organization, as part of the UN, which wants to create one world government, has made a deal with YouTube?
So YouTube did, and I don't remember exactly when, so I would encourage people to go look this up, but YouTube, they can probably find the press release. They did a partnership with the WHO where information that's not approved by the WHO will be removed from YouTube for misinformation. So to me, that's a little bit concerning because number one, like, you have to look at what does the WHO want and, what pharma companies and everything else fund it. So I think that's a major concern. So health providers especially have really gotten hammered on YouTube. And that's why I said, like, it's a place that you want to use it for what it's worth, but you really got to be careful what you're talking about in there. So to me, that's where I've seen the biggest censorship. I've also seen people censored in search specifically, because you can, if you're concerned about search censorship, search for what you want to search for, and then search for it in either incognito browser or the Brave browser, and you'll get a good idea if they're actually altering your search results a lot of times.
Yeah.
So there's search and YouTube are the two major places we're seeing it, and the WHO partnership is very concerning. So I would definitely encourage people to go look that up. You mentioned Dr. Mercola's really gotten hammered. There was, oh gosh, what's the name of the other doctor I'm thinking of? He does a lot of keto stuff. It's suddenly jumping out of my head. But anyway, there's a lot of doctors that if you can see large accounts, if you go to their account and you look at their average views per episode for the last 6 months, you can typically see when things changed and when YouTube started suppressing more because you can see their numbers drop dramatically. So to me, audio, creepy. You want to be there for discoverability, but audio is where you're safest right now.
Do you know about Codex Alimentarius?
I do not, but I'm interested. Tell me.
Yeah, I'm like, at this point,
I love Latin words, so you got me.
So yeah, you definitely want to go down this rabbit hole. When my mentor in 2005 taught me what Codex Alimentarius was, Dr. Rima Libo, and if you can find her 2000, I think it was back in 2005, she gave a talk. So it's in like the smallest format, like videos from the early 2000s or like mid 2000s. It's like they're very small, right? Because they're not in high resolution. And she gives a good like 45-minute talk on what Codex Alimentarius is. It stands for food code, and it sounds wonderful at first. Like it's 15,000 page book.
Oh my gosh.
And or maybe it's 1,500. I'm pretty. It's thick enough
it's
that
big
it could.
Atlas Shrugged, which is like 1,300.
It's giant book, but like the first few, like the 100 or 1,000 pages or whatever. It's just giant book. I've never physically held it, obviously, because I can't remember how many pages it is, but it's huge. The first few chapters, it seems really good, and what it is it's part of the UN and World Health Organization. They want to get every single country in the world to agree to this codex, to take it on as law. And at first, as you read it, it's like hot dogs should be kept at this temperature, and eggs should be kept at this temperature, and chicken. And so you're reading through it going, oh, we're standardizing for the health of the world so no one has, these foodborne diseases. That's great. But when you get through it, it's like basically outlawing any kind of natural medicine and, vitamins or like over-the-counter vitamins gone. Like in any kind of dose, like other than negligible. So Australia signed it years ago, and overnight, high dose vitamins became something like a class 1 felony drug. I lost touch with him, but I was friends with a man who owned a supplement company, and he said it was like a SWAT team practically came down from the ceiling to shut him down. And he lost his business overnight. And that's why one of the companies I work with for my clients in Australia, we have to have the supplements shipped in from New Zealand. Anyways, it's weird. So certain countries have already signed it, and America was resisting it. But how they get the countries to sign it is through treaties. And so they were trying to do it through NAFTA forever. If it does come to America, and I believe Biden has been one step closer to having us basically be under Codex Alimentarius, which it will then make homeopathy outlawed. Things like acupuncture and anything holistic that isn't like basically done from a doctor outlawed. So look into Codex Alimentarius, and the reason why I have zero trust for the World Health Organization is that this has been their number one mission for years. I believe it started after World War II. But it's part of getting every country under the same umbrella of control. And as someone who is now, I feel like I have the American spirit within me. I moved to America from Canada, and I'm never going back.
You're an honorary American.
I am an American. I am throwing the tea in the harbor. I am saying no. I want my freedom.
What I don't understand is why somebody didn't go get themselves a straw and drink the tea in that harbor, right? Like that would have been like the amazing part that nobody thought of. Anyway.
Well, it's very salty tea you got there, which means something else now.
The doctor I was thinking of before I forget was Dr. Eric Berg. If you look at his traffic, it's been cut like not even in half, but like into a third, and his subscriber numbers are huge. But anyway, continue.
That should be part of his marketing campaign.
It is right now. He just did a whole campaign, but he did it on Rumble.
Of course, yeah. They have banned me. Look at my numbers going down. It's not because I suck. It's so. Anyway, these are one of the things. That's why I said at the beginning, put on your tinfoil hat, because I know, like, to the people who haven't woken up to this, I sound like a crazy person. They're probably still not listening. So those who are still listening, congratulations. We're doing this little matrix thing. But when I learned about it in 2005, I was like, my mind was blown. I was like, are you kidding me? And that's right around the same time I started to learn like how bad fluoride is. Between 2005 and 2008, I started to learn about like how unhealthy. And this is the Orwellian, if you understand like 1984 and George Orwell and how he wrote it, is everything they say is one thing is actually another. And it's this inverse
peace is
world.
War, freedom is slavery, like all that.
This inverse war and languaging, because I was studying neurolinguistic programming, and part of me studying it was to understand the languaging. Listen to the news and politicians, but listen through the lens of understanding that they talk in constant presuppositions and linguistic fallacies. And when you gain that level of like clarity to hear the lies through their teeth, you start to see how much every single thing, food companies, right, drug companies, they don't have our best interests at heart. And we need to be very discerning. We need to be very discerning when it comes to taking any advice, even from me, right? Be discerning. And so just when some people hear World Health Organization, they get all warm and fuzzy because they think it's like, oh, good, this this organization that loves me, that loves the world, that just wants good for us, right? They're wanting to take over so that they can protect me. And this
Yeah.
is how people feel about government agencies. These are largely, there's many of them out there that are unelected. You didn't elect them. You didn't elect these people who are making decisions to which of your freedoms they can take away.
Well, and that's why I think like it's also important, like, as a practitioner and as somebody that's actually helping somebody, because let's face it, a lot of these
Yes.
pharma companies aren't. Like, it's important to understand like what platforms to be on. But I think it's also it's actually a viewpoint that's really important to change, but first and foremost to all of this. And that's realizing like I'm going to be ultimately successful or ultimately responsible for my success or failure. Because I think a lot of times people they don't understand the media cycle, right? The media cycle, stuff's happening all the time, 24 hours a day. They're not out there looking for good stories. They want to tell you the next thing in your house that can kill you at 10. They want to tell you, what to be scared of, what to be afraid of. They'll talk about you if you do something that's illegal or perceived to be illegal. So what you need to understand is I'm going to take full responsibility for getting my story out there, understanding this environment we're currently in. So you have to get out there understand the platforms and what to say and where, but also like you need to promote yourself. You need to get your story out there. You need to find other places to speak, other people to speak to. You need to be the one to do it. Whether it's a live on X, whether it's something on Rumble, whether it's, a JV you're doing with someone, you need to take 100% responsibility for getting your media message out there and not relying on them to find you. Because number one, they're trying to silence you.
Yep.
And number two, they're not looking for you.
I love that. I have some holistic health practitioner friends who gave up, when they got silenced or when they got delisted, and they are in victim mode about it. They
Well, I was
did
talking to
this
a very
me.
cool chiropractor a couple years ago, and he's like, I'm just gonna, you guys do good work, but I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing until they, acknowledge me for what I'm doing. I'm like, dude, it doesn't work that way. Like, that's not how media works, and it has the power to like catapult you.
Hmm. So talk to the holistic health practitioner, like the health coaches. There's so many health coaches that listen to this show, naturopathic doctors, acupuncturists. And I've worked with many naturopathic doctors. They're amazing at what they do. Most of them are not great at business. They're not great at promoting themselves. And a lot of health coaches actually are like really uncomfortable with promoting themselves. So talk to those people who are just starting out. What actionable steps could they take that would help them to be heard, to be seen, especially in this climate where there's so much censorship?
Well, I think number one, you just got to get over that, and you got to be like, okay, if I'm going to do this, if I got a big mission, I got to be okay with getting heard and getting seen. I think that's one part of it. But also, too, like communicate more because you're going to get better at it. So whether that's going to Toastmasters, whether that's finding small groups you can speak at, whether it's just talking to more people, if that's the gradient you need to work on, start communicating more and getting more comfortable with it. Because like to make this work, you have to communicate. But I would say the other thing that is a major thing people are cutting out, and it's something I've been talking about this for years actually, and it's actually for me how I started getting notoriety 10 years ago, and it still works today, is called the small pond strategy. Everybody's a big fish in a small pond somewhere. What does that mean? I grew up in a small town, 5/8 of a mile in size, nothing happens there. And that's an actual real Babe Ruth used to play golf there. That's about it. We don't have a grocery store. We have a regional high school. We don't even have a high school. So like nothing happens there. But that's a huge benefit. Why? Because there's a small newspaper that goes to every house in that town and every house in the county. So I know if I write a press release on a Tuesday, they're most likely going to pick it up and run with it on Thursday because there's not a lot of news to talk about. So as long as I'm writing a release and sending it to them, it's going to end up in there. Now, a lot of these small newspapers, because they're newspapers, they still appear in things like Google News. So you can get a backlink to your story online as well as in a written form. Definitely take pictures of the written form, post it on all your socials, tell people about it, and talk about it. Now, the purpose of a press release is what I don't think a lot of people understand. A lot of people think because they've had somebody cold email them and be like, for $1,000, I'll get you on Yahoo News. That's not a real press release, and it's not a real piece of media. The purpose of a press release is to tell media about what you have to say so they reach back into you and want to do something with you. So that's how I got one of my first television spots. Is we had a producer for a television network here in New Jersey read a press release that was printed in the newspaper and say, oh, podcasting, I don't know a lot about that. Let's interview this guy and learn about it. So that's how I got in television the first time. So if you understand that power and start to take a look at what are the small ponds I'm a part of? It could be your Rotary group. Maybe they have a magazine. It could be, I used to live in a lake community. So they had this really cool color magazine that went to every house in the community. So they ran a piece about me. It could be your university. It could be, the other small newspapers or things in there. But find these small ponds you're a big fish in or can be a big fish in, because they're much more obtainable. And once you start to build those media pieces, number one, you're going to have more confidence because you have some media pieces. Number two, you're going to get clearer on your story because you've been communicating. But you can also use those pieces as credibility, so when you approach other media, you appear much more credible. And I think that's a great place to start that a lot of people are missing. Everybody cuts out local, but it's the most attainable thing early in your career.
And the fact that it's physical, I think the pendulum is swinging back. We're wanting to hold something. Every digital is just white noise at this point. So to hold something physical, I have a friend who she's actually a really close friend of mine, my midwife.
We just had our midwife over this morning.
Nice. She purchased a 35-year-old magazine called Midwifery Today. So now she's she runs it. She runs Midwifery Today. And back in 2019, they stopped publishing physical copies and went to just purely digital. And everyone, this is actually like a global magazine. Midwives around the world would subscribe to it. And it's really been missed. And it's a quarterly magazine. And what everyone, all the subscribers are saying is bring back the physical. We don't want to sit on our phone or our computer and read articles. We want to physically hold this publication. So I love that idea of find publications that is your little pond and get published. It's a wonderful sense of accomplishment and great backlinks, like you said, because oftentimes there's a digital version. Anytime you can get someone else to link to your website, that is great. That's good SEO, off-page SEO. And then what else? Give us some other like first steps.
Well, I think one of the major things too that's really important as well, like if you're looking at podcasts, if you're looking at other media, like they want to see you've done media. And I think that's the really important thing to getting some of these early pieces. So you should have a media page on your website. Mine's jeremyryanslate.com/media if you guys want to see an example. And you can go over there and see all the different places I've been in media, all the different things I've written, all the different people that have talked about me, because it shows your credibility. So number one, you're giving somebody the chance that if they do stumble on your website, they're going to possibly reach out to you if you show them you're credible. But number two, when you're doing outbound pitching to media, whether that's podcasts or TV or radio or print or whatever it may be, they want to see you're credible. That's one of the number one things. And it's great to see you saying things about yourself, but third-party credibility is what shows actual credibility. So Brilliant. It's really vital to have those things on your website to show people you're credible. And because I will tell you, like, you could have some great hit rates out of the box if you're reaching out to podcasts and things like that. But for most shows and whatever, they want to see you've done it. They want to see you're legit because they get a lot of inbound. And I think something that's important as well is differentiation. A lot of people are communicating the exact same thing. You need to communicate how what you're doing is different than others in your space, because there's a really great book out there. It's called Positioning, The Battle for Your Mind. It's written in the 80s by Al Ries and Jack Trout. And when we're in branding, positioning is using yourself or your brand as for something or against something. So like, the Pepsi Coke thing, right? They compare themselves to each other. Or the one I hate the most, but they say it all the time, is our business is like the Uber of blank. They're taking something people are familiar with and they're comparing themselves to it. So you have to find your differentiator and you have to get yourself the right positioning, because if you don't have those things, your brand just slips through and people don't quite understand you. So get some media credibility, start establishing your positioning, but also find what is your differentiator? What makes you different? What is particular about your method or your way of doing things? Is there a certain approach you have in testing? Like I know there's some practitioners that do heavy blood testing before they'll ever work with you. Or there's other practitioners that They might do muscle testing. That's something my mother-in-law does a lot. She does a lot of muscle testing for deciding what people need vitamins wise. So what is it that makes you different that people can really buy into and see as legit?
What does your mother-in-law do?
Oh, she's a chiropractor.
Nice.
Yeah, my wife worked for her mom for years before she started this company with me. So we have two beautifully unvaccinated children, and we're very into taking care of our family.
Love it. Do you know what kind of chiropractic she practices?
I don't. I know it's not. What is anyway, I don't know the exact method she does, but she does extremities and stuff too, which I know a lot of them don't. So I used to have a lot of hip problems because she adjusts me like 1 to 2 times a week. A lot of hip problems, a lot of sciatica problems. And she's done I haven't had sciatica problems in 10 years. So like, she's a great chiropractor.
A great chiropractor is worth their weight in gold. Amazing. I have been to so many chiropractors. If you don't like the results you're getting, like after a while, find a new one. Not all chiropractors are created equal. Certainly not.
I know she's not cranial sacral, but I don't know what her exact method is.
It's there's many kinds, and almost no one knows what they are unless they're into chiropractic. And I'm just kind of like
you could ask my wife. She knows everything there is to know about chiropractic.
Well, I'm like a groupie. I'm like holistic practitioner's biggest fan. So
yeah,
I love naturopathic.
Well, that's why I'm so passionate about it, because like it's just always like I've been with my wife for over 15 years, so it's like always been something that's been really important to me, and I was into chiropractic well before we even met.
That's awesome. So great. I love these your advice. This is wonderful, and for the practitioners who are so we talked about some things people do when they're first starting out. Yeah. Let's talk to the listeners. Now, for the listeners who aren't holistic practitioners, and you're still here, fantastic, by the way. You want to be sharing this episode with your holistic practitioners you love, because anytime, and I always do this, but I'm so into marketing, because marketing is how we can help people, right? So there's people who are like, oh, money's the root of all evil, and marketing is, sales is bad, and
I would tell them to read Atlas Shrugged, and there's a wonderful quote by the character Francisco de Anconia where he said, "It is not money, it is love of money." So anyway,
perfect. My point is that people who despise marketing and sales, it's a skill. And you have to use sales to convince your children to not do drugs, right? Like we use sales all the time, and it's about sharing an idea. And for me, sales is actually about how I learn. You're selling me an idea. You're selling me a belief. You're selling me a system, right? It's how we communicate. It's a skill in communication to open people's minds and beliefs up to new ideas or new ways of being or a new belief system, and then motivating them to want to try that. So if you had diabetes and I'm selling you, whether you're going to pay me money or not, I'm selling you a concept that you can be free of diabetes type 2, that you can heal your insulin resistance, that you can have insulin sensitivity and be healthy and balanced. And we can do that within a matter of months, right? Now, I want when I say sell, this isn't you handing me money. I want you to take on this belief system. So when I learned that marketing and sales is how I am going to help people, the masses out there who are sick and suffering, that's my avenue to get to them so that I can help them no longer be in pain, then I was like, it's an amazing tool. And just like any amazing tool, it can be used to hurt people, and it can be used to manipulate, or it can be used to help people. So it's a tool. The tool is, don't be angry at the tool. Just know that the more you learn the tool of marketing, the more you can use it for good, and you can use it to help people, because every holistic practitioner who is listening wants to help people, and they have their own system for helping people, and they need to get that out there, need to sell and market it so that people can go, oh, I want to try this. I understand that there's a benefit to me and I want to try this. So it's just that concept. So for those who have a well-established practice, right? They have an established practice, but maybe they're stuck in their ways, or they've been, maybe dipping their toe a few times. Maybe had some failures, like they tried a YouTube show or they tried a podcast and they had a few failures, or they had an email list and everything kind of just flopped, right? And so 99% of their time, they're really just focusing on doing their business the way they know how, but they don't know how to expand. They don't know how to help the masses. So what would you tell them? What are some actual steps they can take to start to gain success and gain a momentum?
I think the first thing is you got to, you've had some failures, and I get that. I've been there. I've had some failures. I got kicked out of iTunes for a little bit because I changed my title to something they didn't like, but then they brought me back. So I would say, first and foremost, you have to just acknowledge those failures for what they are. Like, yes, it happened. Now you say, what can I learn from this? What can I learn from what happened here? And then you have to take a look at your purpose. Like, is your purpose bigger than this failure? And I'm guessing it most likely is, or you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. So once you have that out of the way, I would say one of the number one reasons that I see failure, and it's whether you're doing this, whether you are doing it internally or whether you are working with a company to do media, is people aren't involved enough in their own media research or outreach and brand growth. Be a personality on social media. Connect with people. Like, I have had so much success connecting with people on X and direct messaging people on X, where maybe my PR team has, gotten me in front of the right producer, but then I get in touch with the host and we're able to do it together. So I think a lot of times you have people running a company that will have a hands-off viewpoint, and we have to really have a hands-on viewpoint, because this is becoming such a persona-driven, online world. And frankly, you have to understand, especially with like big podcasts, they get so much inflow, and they get so much inflow from a lot of weird people. So just by getting out there, communicating and showing people that you're not weird and that you're intelligent and you want to help people, you can actually help yourself get a foot in the door. So I would say, like, you have to be a part of your own media outreach, even if you have somebody doing outreach for you, and start building those relationships. Start taking any anything you can get. Like, I had somebody reach out to me yesterday and say, oh my gosh, I would love to do a live stream with you. Can you do it tomorrow? And I looked at my calendar and I'm like, yes, I can. Absolutely. So you want to take every opportunity that you can get, and you need to be a big part of that. Be willing to hustle, be willing to move, because if you create a little bit of uncomfortableness now, number one, it's hopefully so you don't have to be uncomfortable again. But number two, you have to realize nothing stays exactly the same forever. You're either growing or you're dying. And if they're going to start censoring, well, you have to outcreate that. You have to figure out, how am I going to do that? And don't get hit by the loss. Figure out how you're going to create more. Does that feel like too much like a coaching session, or
No,
you get where I'm going with that?
No, I get it. I love it, because I think it's really important that we should spread out to as many different platforms as possible, so you're not dependent, like you said, dependent on one platform. Back in 2010, end of 2010, my husband and I moved to Seattle from Las Vegas, and he had a job lined up. He was a foreman union carpenter for 20 years. Like, he had a job totally lined up. So we were like cool with moving. And then we get here and the company goes belly up, and we're sitting here. It's like December, and we have like enough money for 1 month. And then we're like, because we expected to roll into the next thing we're doing. And what we had just done for that all of 2010 is build bat house. We were guided. It was like divine guidance. It was the weirdest thing, but we were guided to build bat houses and sell them on eBay. And that's what we lived on. We built and sold 350 amazing bat houses. These beautiful. So we helped with bat. I was totally into bat conservation, and we turned it was like 115 degrees during the day. We turned our garage into a wood shop, and we got all these different components, these different machines to make these bat houses from Craigslist, and we just had a blast. I mean, this is back when we didn't have, we weren't parents yet, so it was just the two of us, and then all of a sudden we're sitting here. It's December, and we don't have the job that we had lined up, which was like 100% lined up, totally disappears, and we were like, okay, well, we could either go get jobs, or we could keep doing that thing where we sell stuff on eBay. And we figured out that and this was again more divine guidance, but we were just divinely guided to figure out that we could buy jeans for $1 and sell them for between $15 and $25. So we would go to the thrift stores and get dollar jeans, and we would look for quality. And these jeans were like worn 4 times. If anything, people would pay more because they're like broken in a little. And we washed them, measured them, pictured them, and posted them on eBay. And we got to the point where we had 1,800 pairs of jeans in our apartment, and we would post 100 a day. We would sell. So some months we sold upwards of 10 grand.
Wow.
And we worked 7 days a week, and we had a blast. But so we did that for about 3 years, living off of eBay. And that was our only source of income. And it became butt puckering when I realized that we are dependent there was just a handful of times where like PayPal or eBay, because back then eBay was and PayPal were one, and that's the only way you could get paid. Now they've split off, and there's other ways you can take payments. But at the time you could only take payments through PayPal. So if PayPal had a disagreement with you, they could shut you down. If eBay had a disagreement, they could shut you down. There was a few of those like, again, butt clenching moments where we were like, oh my gosh, we could not make an income very quickly if eBay decided to shut our store down. And I had this very intense realization that we've entered into a moment in our society where we become so dependent on technology. It's a faceless technology. There's no safety net, and your life is dependent on it. Like, I mean, let's say there's a solar flare, the power goes out, you can't access your money, you can't cook food, you can't drive your car. Like, yes, we are so dependent on electric run machines, right? But when you have your marketing, like for example, only TikTok or only YouTube,
yes,
or you run your marketing is only on social media or only on one platform. I'm talking about like one platform. That platform could like when it delists you and Google goes, we don't like what you're saying. We're going to make sure people can't find you. Even though you have a website, we're going to make sure people can't find you. Overnight, you lose a significant amount of traffic, income, or even a way to gain income. So that's why diversity and the whole don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's when I learned like more and more our lives are dependent on technology, but that we often will trust that this, again, it's that like blindly trusting like it's our parent. Like, yeah. Oh, I love this platform and this platform loves me and wants to take care of me. It's like, no.
Until they don't.
This platform does not care about you, and they could destroy your life if they like cut you off, basically, just like a parent would cut a teenager off, right? So we have to be really resourceful, and I like that idea of that small pond. Coming back to the small pond, what can you build? What marketing roots can you grow so that if one platform shuts down, your business doesn't dry up?
Yeah, and can I add one more thing to that too?
Yes,
because
please.
Think like just for me personally right now, I'm on the biggest PR push, and you and I have talked about this a little bit offline, but like I'm in the biggest PR push I've ever had in my entire life right now, my entire business career. And I've been on some of the biggest podcasts I've ever been on. And we have some even bigger ones coming. And the thing that happened was my master's degree is in the Roman Empire, something that no one cared about a few years ago. And then suddenly this trend picked up on TikTok and we ran with it. And I think that's what's really important is when you look at PR and when you look at media opportunities, you have to be agile. And when you see an opening, you got to run as hard at it as you can. Because right now these opportunities are popping up and it's been great. This is going to dry up at some point, right? So you have to make hay while the sun is shining. So you have to be constantly looking for media opportunities. If you see something, commit as fast as you can, run at it as fast as you can, because media opportunities in the media cycle go fast. Like what's happening right now, for me, this has been a long media cycle. This doesn't typically happen. At some point, it's going to dry up, but you have to find those opportunities for yourself. And when you're getting them, grab them, go for it, make it happen, because media opportunities and knowing what is the pulse in my industry, what is the pulse in what's happening. Are other media starting to talk about my industry? Maybe they don't understand my industry. I don't even have to be the smartest one in my industry. I'm not. As I mentioned, like I don't even have a PhD. I have an MA, so I know enough about it. So, but I'm one of the few people that's able to communicate it to regular people. So I've been able to run with it. So it doesn't even have to be your industry. It could be other people talking about your industry. But when you find a PR opportunity, double down and go fast. And this can be like, I find right now looking at trends on like X is really good. I constantly have people on my team looking on TikTok. Also, we want to register for helpareporter.com. There's a free version, there's a paid version, but there's people looking for media opportunities because you could find the right one for you where you can start using media opportunities to get others. Like I've been able to approach certain podcasts and be like, here I was on this, and this one. And they're like, oh, wow, okay, cool, let's talk to you, where they wouldn't talk to me before. So when you find your media opportunity, run fast, find that opening, and use those opportunities to get your future opportunities.
I love it. And all of this is to help for the greater good. All of this is to help people.
Yes.
Like, any holistic health practitioner listening is wanting, obviously making money is a direct reflection of how many people we can help, how many people we can take out of suffering. And there's people who are suffering who are thirsty. They're thirsty for this knowledge and they want to know how they can turn their health around. I remember being in my 20s, suffering every day, crying myself to sleep, feeling like I was dying. I'd have these adrenaline dumps and I would feel like I was dying in my 20s. When you're supposed to be out like partying, having fun, living in life, just like that. You think of your 20s, that's when you're supposed to be just like having the time of your life. I was trapped, a prisoner in my body, sick, so sick. Type 2 diabetes, chronic adrenal fatigue, chronic infections, polycystic ovarian syndrome, infertility. And I would have these just horrific adrenaline dumps. And I would lie there with my heart pounding. And I'm just like, this is it. I'm leaving my body. Like, this is my life. Like, I'm no longer going to be here. And then there were moments several times a day where I would be so hungry, even though I just ate, and it was actually hunger for minerals. I didn't even know that was pica or cribbing. I was just starving for nutrition. But it would drove me crazy. And I was so hungry for this knowledge. And I went to doctor after doctor and they had nothing for me. They had poison. And I can't tell you how many of my clients come to me and their doctors have them on poison when their body is starving for nutrition. And
you need to learn to read a label too, because even like with our kids, like food dyes, like just drive them insane. Like it's just so vital that type of thing. Anyway.
Really, food is very sick. My mom was really strict around, which I'm so thankful for now because I gained the tool really early. We weren't allowed to have sugary crap in the house. Once a year on my birthday, I could eat whatever I wanted. And so I ate the sugary cereal, had pizza and popcorn and all the gross stuff. Popcorn's not bad, but like microwave popcorn or whatever I wanted, right? It was just like go nuts one day a year. And other than that, we didn't have anything like processed or sugar in the house. It was really strict. And I grew up on like health food store. If I had cereal, it was like just rice puff, no sugar added. And going down the cereal aisle, it is very hard for me to find a healthy cereal. Like we don't eat cereal in the house all the time, but for my son who wants one, good luck finding one that isn't that. It has to be, for me, it's gluten-free. He's allergic to gluten and oats. And I wouldn't feed that to anyone anyway. But find an organic cereal that doesn't have sugar in it. There's only one I can find. Does not have any sugar. It is very difficult. And then anytime I do find a different brand, it's quickly removed from the shelves. It's so weird. It's like even Whole Foods won't sell it anymore. They'll sell the same brand, but this one brand has like it's like a Cheerio alternative, and it's made of lima beans or something. I don't know, lentils. There's no sugar, and then they have like the strawberry and the second ingredient sugar and a chocolate and the second ingredient sugar. And some of these, most of these cereals, first ingredient is sugar. What are we feeding our kids? And all the dyes that cause cancer, that cause the brain to be hyperreactive, right? You and I'm a little older than you, so my listeners might be a little older than you. We grew up in the 80s where we trusted these brands. We saw the commercials that made us very comfortable to trust these brands. The brands have changed. The ingredients have changed. They are not the same as they were in 1980. They are not. So we have to remember to turn over you get your reading glasses out if you need reading glasses, turn over the freaking box, and it drives my husband nuts. So I'm the food detective. I will spend 90 minutes grocery store shopping. If I have to go down the aisles, way. I will turn over the box and I will read every label. And I've gotten really fast at it now because I just scan it. And if you can't pronounce, if it's multiple syllables that you can't pronounce, or if it's fortified, just put it back. Because it's fortified with artificial, B vitamins. Oh, look, it has B vitamins. It must be so healthy. These are artificial vitamins, and a lot of times they actually block your ability to detox and block your ability to uptake actual B vitamins. I've done interviews on that. So I'm just looking for a real food, a real ingredient, nothing added, nothing taken away. And it's very, very, very difficult. I went on a sugar fast a few years ago, and I was like looking for hot sauce. It was almost impossible. I couldn't believe it. Everything I picked up off the shelf has sugar. And the sugar, there's like 25 different words for sugar. So you have to know what they are. So I had to Google them and look for them and cross-reference.
Well, even a lot of the artificial ones too, like they may have quote unquote 0 calories, but they still stimulate your blood sugar in the same way that a sugar would too.
Yes. So what we're being sold out there, everything, literally everything in the grocery stores, on TV, in the media is designed to make you unhealthy and to get you hooked on drugs, because we're just like, we're cattle on a conveyor belt of sickness. And we are actually trapped, the entire country, the entire world trapped inside like an unhealthy farm. You know what I mean? So if you imagine a chicken on a conveyor belt, right? Like this is what we are in. And to break free from it, you have to be diligent. You have to think for yourself, and you have to completely go against the grain. And I love to say this. The statistics, look at the statistics in your country. So United States, for example, look at the statistics of cancer, heart disease, diabetes. Look at the statistics of the disease and what people die of and when they die, right? And even younger. Look at the statistics. 1 in 3 people are getting cancer and heart disease. 1 in 3 people have diabetes or pre-diabetes. It is you're in a room with 2 other people. One of you is sick, right? It's growing. 70% of adult Americans are on at least one prescription medication. That means that 70% of people wake up feeling like crap, and they take artificial, man-made chemicals, petroleum-based chemicals, to alter their body because they are so sick they need to do that, or they think they need to do that. And
our voices need to be loud too, because like if you like, yeah. I was looking at yesterday. You know what really surprised me, Ashley? Do you know 1/3 of the Fortune 500 companies are medical and pharma companies? Like, how shocking is that? 1/3 of the Fortune 500.
And that's because we've allowed it to happen. We've stayed on the conveyor belt. We've let them feed us poison every single day of our lives through the media and through the food they serve us. And we just gobble it up, right? Because they're hitting our dopamine receptors. And it's like, I am one of those people that like question everything. And, I mean, it must have been really difficult raising me. Like my parents, they're both in heaven, but I like tip my hat off to them, because now I have a defiant child, and defiant in a good way. Like he's like, why is it this way? Why do we have to do it this way? Because it's the way we do it. No, question everything.
Yes.
Don't let them force feed you garbage through your ears, through your eyes, and through your mouth. Don't let them force feed you garbage. So when you question everything, we're fed garbage, and we have to break through. As when I say we, I mean holistic practitioners. We have to break through this wall of constant garbage that people are intaking into their minds and bodies. And we need to break through and say, hey, if you're sick of suffering, come over here. There's another way. We got to break through. So it's your job as a holistic practitioner to help heal this world. And for those who are listening who aren't holistic health practitioners, it's your job. I'm handing you the mantle. It's your job to help, to support, to uplift, to inspire and uplift your holistic health practitioners, those that your chiropractor, your naturopath, your friends that are, anyone in the holistic health space, me included. Please share my podcast. We are getting this information out so that we can break through the system of constant, disgusting, toxic mind control. And, I feel like I'm sounding like Alex Jones at this point, but, we have to break through. We have to break through from this. I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing with your company. You have some amazing holistic practitioners that you help promote. Command Your Brand. Is it commandyourbrand.com or commandyourbrand.media?
We have both. So
Okay.
because originally when we started this company way back, we bought the .media because somebody was sitting on the .com for like 12 grand. And then eventually, we kept growing and whatever, and we negotiated to actually eventually buy the URL at less than 12
Nice.
grand, but still at a higher price. But yeah, it is
Yeah.
.media or .com.
Very cool. Do you wanna like let us know what it looks like to work with you for the? I would say if you're established, if you have the money to invest in a PR and in the company that's going to help you with your marketing. Jeremy is very ethical. I haven't ever hired him, but I have interviewed so many of his doctors, and we've been working together for years. I've been on his show. He's now on mine, and I've interviewed a lot of his doctors. So we've had a lot of communications, and I've gotten to know Jeremy, and I feel like his heart is in the right place. And I trust that my listeners, if they hired you, you would take care of them. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about what it looks like to work with you. And do you have any case studies you want to share? Any of your clients that maybe clients we would know?
So I know Dr. Mike Haley that was on your show. I think he's actually in your top 10 episodes list that you have on your site somewhere. But Dr. Mike Haley was a great client. But the way things typically work with us is, number one, we are working with people that are a little bit more established. So if you are brand new, we have some awesome training courses. Like, we get such incredibly good feedback about our training courses.
Nice.
And I want to help you no matter what level you're at. So we also have, our team helps a lot if you have questions on those. So if you're brand new, if you want to get started, if you need help, we have some great courses. So commandyourbrand.com/courses can help you with that. If you're looking to work with us as an agency, we really are working with people that have a team. They are established, they're doing well, but they need to get that message out more to the right people. So our clients typically work with us over a year, and we have a bunch of clients that have been with us for years. I think we just had somebody sign for their 5th year in a row, which has been awesome. But that's typically what we do. And we're different than a lot of PR agencies that you pay them a monthly retainer and you may or may not get something. We do work on a fixed number of podcasts. And what we found that like 24 is like a good number to do in a 12-month span, because any more than that, like, you get burnt out, and you're also looking at like, well, are these even the right shows for me? And then I think any less isn't really, it isn't really the critical mass. And the reason we do a year is we used to do 6 months. And what we found is PR, it's slow. So initially, you're not going to see the impact that you're looking for in months 1 through 3, 4.
Yeah.
But you start to hit critical mass around 5, 6, 7 months, and that's why we want to be able to continue to build off of that. So that's what it looks like to work with us. We're trying to make a great impact. Dr. Haley, you mentioned we work with. I don't know if your audience has heard of Dr. Anna Kobeka, but we work with her for years.
Yeah, I've had her on the show a few times. She's awesome.
Dr. Taz, we've worked with. We've had some really, really cool holistic doctors.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Love it. And when you say 24, you mean that you get
We guarantee
them
24 placements. And typically what we find is the effort that it takes to get 24 different podcasts usually yields more than that, because we want to exchange in abundance. We want to give people more than what they paid for. But we
Yep.
do guarantee the number of placements that we're going to do, because, as my wife comes from a PR world, I come from a health and fitness world, and I was also a high school teacher for a bit. So we don't like we don't like how the typical PR world works. So if you pay a retainer and you may or may not get something, but you paid for my time, and isn't that great? We want you to pay for the actual product you're getting, and that's why we're trying to change how PR works. But we're also trying to help this podcast world grow, and that's why, we also have a lot of courses to help podcasters too. So we're really trying to. I think this space is the direction media is going. I think it is really the last bastion of free speech, like I said earlier, and we need to support it and we need to push it.
How can people do your courses?
So if you head over to commandyourbrand.com/courses, or if you shoot an email over to josh@commandyourbrand.com, you can have a conversation with Josh, and he can find out exactly what you're looking for help with, and then help you decide like what's the best course for you. And also, Josh and our team will help you if you have any questions as you're going through your course journey.
Okay, cool. And these are courses we pay for?
They are paid courses. We have a lot of great free training too. If you want to go over to our YouTube channel, I literally dump my entire brain over there. Like the amount of stuff I'm giving out for free, like really isn't fair. But if you want to go and check it out, there's some, like I have a video on how to automate your podcast over there using AI. So if you want to go do it, please go check out our YouTube channel, because I really do want to educate people.
That's awesome. We're going to make sure the links to everything that Jeremy Slate does is in the show notes of today's podcast at learntoyourhealth.com. You have given us so many cool things to think about and some great actionable steps. Tell us about bestpodcastbook.com.
So as we talked about today, I think the number one way to get yourself out there is through your voice. And I put together a really awesome book called Command Your Brand, Grow Your Income, Impact, and Influence in a New Media Landscape. And I go through exactly what you need to do to outline a PR campaign using podcasts and to make a really big impact. So at bestpodcastbook.com, it's not 100% free. We do ask you to pay for shipping, but the book itself is free. And if you're like me and you like to actually have a physical book, I don't do ebooks. I just can't do it. So bestpodcastbook.com, just pay shipping. We'll ship you the book free of cost other than shipping, and it will help you to, really start to build a campaign for yourself, really get some motion going. And I want you to get your voice out there. You have a duty to get your voice out there and help people.
I love it. It's funny. I think about the Bible stories like Jonah. My son loves the Jonah story. And I was like, it's not fair. Like when I was a kid, I was like, it's not fair. But it's so funny now as a parent, because I'm telling my son, like, go do this, like, go get dressed, right? And then he comes like 5 minutes later and he's still naked. I'm like, why aren't you dressed? Go get dressed. And he's like, oh, yeah, I forgot. Okay. And then he runs back in his room. And like 5 minutes later, why aren't you dressed? And it's just like, it's so funny how like he's not resisting me, but like, he's just being a kid. But the Jonah story, if you don't know it, like God asks Jonah to go to this place where it would be very uncomfortable for him to speak to these people and try to get them to not be completely depraved, right? Like, hey, it'd be really great if you stop sacrificing children and sleeping with each other out of wedlock and, murdering and stealing. And, God really wants us to like love each other and not do all these bad things. And he's like, I would rather run away and hide from God. And of course you can't do that because God is omnipresent and omnipotent. And it's just really funny, the story, how he eventually goes, okay, fine, I'll do it. And this is sort of like when you run away from your life purpose. So it's like, here you are, you're a holistic practitioner. You have in your heart, like your heart is overflowing with this passion to help people. Like this is God put you on this planet to help people. And then he's like, okay, now you need to go and speak to the masses. And you're like, I'm afraid of that, so I'm going to hide. Like, how's that working for you? Right? Like, you're not going to get swallowed by a whale, but how's that working for you? It's not. You have to, like, you need to go do something uncomfortable and speak to the masses. And so that's sort of like when I wrote my book. I'm like, this is uncomfortable. I'm going to go put this book out because I'm speaking to the masses in a different way. And I am being Jonah, like finally saying, okay, fine, I'll go speak to the masses, even though it's going to be really uncomfortable because I'm going to have to convince them that all the horrible things they're doing is not great and that's not what God wants. And it worked out in the end, but this is a metaphor for how much we resist our own life purpose when it comes to like, okay, now you have to go out and do something uncomfortable in order to get your life purpose out there, in order to connect with people and help people. And that's where we are. So be Jonah after the whale spat him out and go, and go, okay, fine, I'll be uncomfortable and go talk to people and get on other people's podcasts. Like Jeremy talks about, write articles, go talk to local groups, I've given talks at churches, go get yourself out there. Practice.
So much easier to do that than go to Nineveh. I have to say that. You know what I mean? Like Jonah was doing a big thing. Like, we just want you to go to your Rotary group and talk to somebody. You know what I mean?
But public speaking feels like death to some people. I've seen some studies where people are like more afraid of public speaking than death. And the thing is that we have this idea. This is something I learned from Landmark Education. They have their second major course they teach is called the advanced course. And in it, you learn that you've been afraid of people, like groups of people, like they have this hive mind, when actually everyone is terrified of you. Everyone's walking around terrified of everyone else. And it's hilarious. So if you can get over that, if you can just go, when you're speaking to public, when you're speaking to a group of people, or if you're speaking into a mic and you're thinking thousands of people are listening, they're just individuals who are just as worried about you judging them as you are worried that they're judging you. And also remember, it's none of your business what other people think of you. And that is truly freeing. But you have a purpose in life to go help people. And I love that, Jeremy, you're helping those get their voice out there and get it heard, especially in the very tumultuous times we're in. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Is there anything you want to share to wrap up today's interview?
Yeah, no, I would just go back to something I said earlier, and I think it's take 100% responsibility for your own success and failure, and that means get involved in your own media campaign, get your attention out there, promote to people, look for any opportunity you can. If you do that, you can make a change. I'm going to be honest with you, as we mentioned, since you're helping people with the truth, what's going to happen? You're going to get some blowback.
Yep.
That's fine. Keep pushing, right? You're going to have people in your life that maybe even love you and care about you to say, oh man, why are you doing this? You're going to find the longer you go, the longer you push, eventually that pushback will turn into admiration, but it doesn't if you stop. So you have to keep going. You have to keep pushing, have more conversation, create more media opportunities, talk more. Because if you communicate more, you're going to get more comfortable with it. You're going to get better at it. People always ask me, like, how do you get to be a better interviewer? I'm like, do 1,000 interviews. You'll get better at interviewing. Like, just communicate a lot. Like, it's really, really important.
Mm-hmm. Go back and listen to episode 1, episode 2, and 3 of my podcast. And then
I don't do that of my own.
Yeah, go back and listen to my first 20 episodes. I was shaking in my boots. And I know I've gotten better. I'm very comfortable with it now versus 500 episodes ago, but I love that. Like, go listen to my first few episodes, and you don't have to be perfect to start. Just start. You will grow the muscle along the way. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for coming on the show. It's been such a pleasure. bestpodcastbook.com. Go check out the book. Just pay for shipping. And commandyourbrand.com/courses also, if you want to check out the courses. Or would you say email Josh at commandyourbrand.com. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure. Keep sending me the really good holistic doctors. Everyone you sent me has been gold. This has been great.
That's amazing. And I'm just really excited too. I know I was just talking to somebody else about, and we may have to connect them with you, but they're talking about food dyes. So I'm just excited.
Let's do it.
Anyway.
Let's do it. Sounds great. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been wonderful.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
These are the same supplements that I have been using myself personally, my family, and my clients for the last 12 and a half years. These are the same supplements that helped me to overcome my chronic diseases. I used to have type 2 diabetes, chronic adrenal fatigue, chronic infections, polycystic ovarian syndrome, infertility, and I don't have any of those things anymore. The holistic doctors that informed these supplements discovered that the root cause of disease is a lack of key nutrients. There are 90 essential nutrients the body needs, and we're not getting them from our food anymore because of the farming practices of the last 100 years. So no matter how healthy we eat, we're still missing what our body needs to create optimal health. Because you listen to this health podcast and you're looking for health solutions, you will love working with the team at takeyoursupplements.com. These are health coaches that just like me, overcame their own health issues using, of course, eating healthy lifestyle. But the key fundamental thing that they added were these supplements. These supplements encompass all 90 essential nutrients. And when you talk to your health coach, they will help to customize a plan specifically to your needs and your health goals. You will start feeling amazing right away. Within the first month of taking these supplements, everyone notices better sleep, more mental clarity, better energy, overall sense of well-being that takes over their life. And they are so happy that they got on these supplements. I want you to give it a try. There's a money-back guarantee, and there's amazing health coaches waiting to help you at takeyoursupplements.com, and it's free to talk to them. So what are you waiting for? Go to takeyoursupplements.com right now, sign up for a free consultation, and in a month, you could be feeling on top of the world, just like I did. I was so sick. I felt so horrible, and I overcame that. I had to obviously make healthy choices around every area of my life. I had to change my diet. I had to change my lifestyle. But I needed to fill in those nutrient gaps. And that's where Take Your Supplements comes in. They help you to make sure that you're getting all 90 essential nutrients. So your cell, every cell in your body, all 37.2 trillion cells in your body will be bathed in all the nutrients that they need so that you can live an optimal life full of health and vitality at any age. Go to takeyoursupplements.com and talk to one of them today. They can help you right now to begin to make that health transformation. That's takeyoursupplements.com.